Hello everyone and welcome to this video channel Science Class I. Today let's study chapter number 10. Chapter number 10, Reaching the Age of Adolescence. So in this chapter number 10, Reaching the Age of Adolescence, which is in textbook page number 135. So today let's study this chapter. Reaching the Age of Adolescence, chapter number 10. In this chapter, we will study about the period of adolescence. So, human life can be, the stage of the human life can be divided into, say, some stages. They are, say, infancy, from the just birth to 5 years old. That is called infancy period. And from 5 years to 12 years, that is called childhood stage. And from 12, 13 to 19 years period, that is called adolescence. And adulthood stage, 18 in the case of the female and 21 years in the case of the male, till 60 years, that are adulthood stage. And from 60 years and above, they are old. That is called aging. Aging starts from 60 years and above. So, in this chapter number 10, reaching the age of adolescence. Now, let's see. First, let's read out this thing. In the previous chapter, you have learned how animals reproduce. It is only after growing up to a certain age that human beings and many other animals can reproduce. And why can humans reproduce only after a certain age? So in the previous chapter, we have learned how animals reproduce. And it is only after growing up to a certain age that human beings and many other animals can reproduce. So what it says, human beings and other animals, they can reproduce only when they reach up to certain age. When, say, particularly humans do not reproduce at the age of childhood. So, during the childhood stage, reproductive organs of the children, they are underdeveloped. So, during the adulthood stage, all the reproductive organs and hormones, they regulate the body functions. Now, why can humans reproduce only after a certain age? Humans can reproduce only after reaching certain age. That is called adulthood stage. Because when we reach adulthood stage, then actually from the puberty or from the adolescence period, say we are about to reach adulthood stage during the adolescence. So, so many symptoms, so many signs we can see in the body of the child during the adolescence period. So, only after reaching the adulthood stage, then humans reproduce. Because hormones, some of the hormones are produced by the endocrine glands, and it regulates the body functions and reproductive organs. So, all these organs are function at the age of adulthood. So, humans reproduce when they reach certain age. In this chapter, you will learn about changes that take place in the human body after which a person becomes capable of reproduction. So, in this chapter, we will learn about changes that take place in human body after which a person becomes capable of reproduction. So, here, let's see, in chapter 9, you have learned about human reproductive organs. Here, we shall discuss the role that human hormones play in bringing about changes that make a child grow into an adult. So, hormones are nothing. Hormones are the chemical messengers. These hormones are produced when and the humans, particularly the children, reach the adolescence period. So during this time, so many changes we can see from the boy or girls. So now let's continue. Adolescence and puberty. Adolescence and puberty, let's see. Buzo was celebrating his 10th birthday. After his friend left, Buzo and Pehle began chatting with their parents. Pehle studies in an all-girls school and she started laughing. She remarks that many of Buzo's school friends, whom she met after a year, had suddenly shot up in height. Some of them were looking very funny with a hairy line above their lips. Her mother explained that the boys had grown up. Oh, here is one of the funny scenes we can see. Buzo was celebrating his 10th birthday after his friends left. And Buzo and Pehle began chatting. Buzo and Pehle, they start chatting with their parents. Then Pehle studies in an all-girls school and she started laughing. Why? Most of the why? Because she remarked that many of Buzo's school friends, whom she met after a year, had suddenly shot up in height. That means they become taller, and some of them were looking very funny with a hairy line above their lips. Above their lips, a hairy line can be seen. That is called what? Bird. So her mother explained that the boys had grown up. This shows that during the adolescence period, when the baby boy, that means the children, particularly boys, when they reach 13-14 years, then some changes we can see. Say above their lips, a hairy line we can see. Growth begins from the day one is born, but upon crossing the age of 10 or 11, there is a sudden spurt in growth which becomes noticeable. The changes taking place in the body are part of growing up. So, whenever we see the changes in the children, we know that it is part of growing up. So, they indicate that you are no longer a child, but are on the way to becoming an adult. So, changes, so many changes we can see during the adolescence period, particularly in girls as well as in boys. So, hairs grow on the above the lips of the boys, and growth of the pubic hair also, particularly in the armpit and pubic hair take place in the boys, and in girls also the hip becomes broader and development of the chest will take place. So many changes takes place in both boys and girls during the adolescence. Here I wonder how long this period marked by changes in the body will last. This is one of the questions. This type of changes will last for some period. So, it is a strange period of life. It shows to reach the adulthood stage. So, such type of changes, if we see, then after some year, the boy or the girl will become, say, adulthood. So it is a strange period of life when you are neither a child nor an adult. So I wonder whether this period between childhood and adulthood had a special name. That special name is called what? Adolescence, as I already told you. So now let's continue. Growing up is a natural process, the period of life when the body undergoes changes, leading to reproductive maturity, is called adolescence. So, adolescence period is also one of the growing period. It is a natural process and the period of life, and when the body undergoes changes leading to reproductive maturity, that is called adolescence. And adolescence begins around the age of 11 and lasts up to 18 or 19 years of age. So, adolescence starts from the age of 11 and it will last up to 18 or 19 years of age. So, this period is called adolescence period. And since this period covers the teens means 13 to 18. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 or 19 years of age. So this period is teens. So adolescents are also called teenagers. So in girls, adolescence may begin a year or two earlier than in boys. So adolescence period is faster, advanced than boys, particularly in the girls. Adolescence period is more advanced than boys. It may advance, say, a year or 2 years. 1 year or 2 years. Also, the period of adolescence varies from person to person, and the period of adolescence also varies from one person to another. In some persons, adolescence period starts from 11 years, whereas in some people, the adolescence period may start from 12 years, like that. So some variation may be there. The human body undergoes several changes during adolescence. So these changes mark the onset of puberty. So during this adolescence period, so many changes we can see in both boys and girls. So these changes mark the onset of puberty. These changes shows the reaching the stage or the onset of puberty. So the most important change which marks puberty is that boys and girls become capable of reproduction. This means boys and girls, they become adulthood. Their body organs, their reproductive organs become mature, and they become capable of reproduction. So puberty ends when an adolescent reaches reproductive maturity. So puberty stage will end when the adolescent reaches reproductive maturity. So puberty is just the onset of what reproductive maturity, just the onset of reproductive stage. Whereas adolescence, puberty ends when the adolescent reaches reproductive maturity. So now let's continue. Here, next page, Pahle and Buzo realized that sudden increase in height and hairy line above the lips in boys were signs of adolescence. So they wanted to know more about other changes at puberty. So Pahle and Buzo realized that a sudden increase in height and hairy line above the lips in boys, these are the changes. We are the signs of adolescence, and they wanted to know more about other changes at puberty. So many changes are there during the puberty stage. Some of the changes I can mention you now. In the boys, hairy line above the lips, and growth of hairs in the armpit as well as in the pubic hair. And in the boys, the buccal becomes deep, and development of the Adam's apple will start at the neck region. And in the girls, hip becomes broad, and development of the chest, development of the breast will start. And in the same case as with the boys, buccal become change during the girls' adolescence, and secretion of the hormones, particularly like testes and ovary. Testes in the case of the boys and ovary in the case of the girls will they produce hormones, testosterone and other hormones they will produce. These are the signs of the reaching adolescence. So many changes we can see. So changes at puberty, increase in height. Now let's see this thing. The most conspicuous change during puberty is the sudden increase in height. So sudden increase in height is also one of the conspicuous changes. And at this time, the long bones, that is, the bones of the arms and the legs elongate. The bones of the arms, arm bones will, and bones of the legs will elongate and make a person tall. So these are also changes. Activity 10.1, we can see the following chart gives the average rate of growth in height of boys and girls with age. The figures in column 2 and 3 give the percentage of the height a person has reached at the age given in column 1. For example, by the age 11, a boy has reached 81% of his probable full height, while a girl has reached 88% of her full height. These figures are only representative and there may be individual variations. Now we can see here a chart. From this chart we can understand percentage of the height of a person, and when a children his or her age is 11, a boy has reached 81% and of his probable full height, while a girl has reached 88% of her full height. So these figures are only representative and there may be individual variations. There may be some individual variations also may be there. So use the table for your friends and work out how tall they are likely to be and find out who is likely to be. Now let's see. The tallest and who might be the shortest in your class. So this the chart is given here. So now let's see. Age in years. Age in years. Percentage of full height, that is boys and girls. Here age in years, 8 years. When age is 8 years, in the boys the growth percentage of full height will be 72%. In the girls, 77%. Age in years, say 9 years. In the boys, 75% of full height. In the girls, 81%. And when the age becomes, say, 10 years, in the boys, 78%, in the girls, 84%. And when they become, say, 11 years, and their percentage of full height is 81% and 88%. When they become 12, 84%, 91%. When the age in year is 13, 88% in boys, and in girls, 95%. And when the age is 14, then in boys, percentage of full height is 92% and girls 98%. So all are given here. So from this chart we know that the percentage of full height in girls is greater than the percentage of full height than boys. So this indicates that the adolescence period is advanced in girls than boys. So below that, calculation for full height in centimeter. A chart is also given. Now let's see. Present height in terms of centimeter divided by percentage of full height at this age. That is, as given in the chart. In this chart, it has given. So into 100. Present height divided by percentage of full height, this is into 100. So this is the calculation for full height of a person. So one example is given here. A boy is 9 years old and 120 centimeter tall. At the end of the growth period, he is likely to be tall. So here the age of the boy is given as 9 years old, and present height of this boy is 120 centimeter tall. So here we have to calculate at the end of the growth period, he is likely to be, say, 120 centimeter is the present height, and 75 is the, say, 120 centimeter is the present height, and this 120 centimeter is the present height of 9 years old boy. So here from this 9 years is for the boys, it should be 75%. So this 75% is this one, this 75. So 120 divided by 75 into 100 centimeter. This is 160 centimeter tall. So 9 years old boy, and the present age is 120 centimeter. At the end of growth period, he may height up to 160 centimeter. Next page, now let's see. Activity 10.2, now let's see what it says. Use the data given in activity 10.1 to draw a graph. Take as on the x-axis and percent growth in height on the y-axis. Highlight the point representing your age on the graph. Find out the percentage of height you have already reached. Calculate the height you might eventually reach. Tally your graph with the one given here, figure number 10.1. So this is the graph. You know, in the graph, we know a Cartesian plane. Here is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. So x-axis should be the s, and y-axis should be the percentage of full height. So from the above given chart, from this above page, this given chart, we can draw a graph here. So the s in height, percentage of full height is this one. When the s is 9, the percentage of full height is this one, like this. When it draw a graph, it is found like this. So this is boys and girls. So graph showing percentage of height with s. Percentage of height with s. So initially, girls grow faster than boys. As I told you, the reaching of the adolescence period is much advanced in the girls. Here also it is mentioned, initially girls grow faster than boys, but by about 18 years of age, both reach their maximum height. So girls grow faster than boys, but by about 18 years of age, both boys and girls, when they become 18 years of age, both reach their maximum height. The rate of growth in height varies in different individuals. Some may grow suddenly at puberty and then slow down, while others may grow gradually. So the growth rate of individuals may vary. Some may grow suddenly and may stop, and some may grow gradually. So growth may be different from one individual to another. So here I am worried. I thought, though I have become taller, my face looks much smaller compared to my body. So this girl said, though I have become taller, my face looks much smaller compared to my body. Here I will explain about this thing. Now let's read this thing. There is no need for Pehle to worry. All parts of the body do not grow at the same rate. So, growth of all the humans, of all the individuals, there is no need for Pehli to worry. All parts of the body do not grow at the same rate. So all parts of the body do not grow at the same rate. Sometimes the arms and legs are, or hands and feet of adolescents look oversized and out of proportion with the body. But soon the other parts catch off and result in a proportionate body. So in the growth of the human, some body parts may become much bigger, disproportionate to other body parts. But in due course of time, the other body parts also will become bigger, and proportionate body parts will be there. You must have noticed that height of an individual is more or less similar to that of some family member. This is because height depends on the genes inherited from parents. So it is, however, very important to eat the right kind of food during these growing years. So during these growing years, we need to eat the right kind of food. So the growth of an individual, so it depends. It is also one of the genetic factors. They are all inherited from the parents. And this helps the bones, muscles, and other parts of the body get adequate nourishment for growth. You will find nutritional needs of adolescents discussed later in the lesson. So during the growing period, we need to eat nutritious food, adequate food. Change in body shape. Now let's see. You have noticed that boys in your class have broader shoulders and wider chests than boys in junior classes. This is because they have entered the age of puberty, when shoulders generally broaden as a result of growth. In girls, the region below the waist becomes wider. So here what it says, let's see. Have you noticed that boys in your class have broader shoulders and wider chests than boys in junior classes? And this is because they have entered the age of puberty. So when shoulders gradually broaden as a result of growth, in girls the region below the waist becomes wider. That is, hip becomes broader. In boys, the muscles of the body grow more prominently than in the girls. So in the boys, muscles of the body grow more prominently than in the girls. Thus, changes occurring in adolescent boys and girls are different. So changes in the adolescence, during the adolescence, in girls and boys are also different. So boys change. Now let's see. Did you notice that sometimes the voice of some of the boys in your class cracks? At puberty, the voice box or the larynx begins to grow. Boys develop larger voice box. The growing voice box in boys can be seen as a protruding part of the throat. That is called Adam's apple. As I told you earlier, Adam's apple. Figure number 10.2, it is shown. In girls, the larynx is hardly visible from the outside because of its small size. Generally, girls have a high-pitched voice. So in the girls, they have very high-pitched voice, whereas boys have a deep voice. In adolescents, boys, sometimes the muscles of the growing voice box go out of control and the voice becomes hoarse. This state may remain for a few days or weeks, after which the voice becomes normal. So this happens particularly. So voice change is there during the adolescence period. So at the puberty, the voice or the larynx begins to grow during the puberty stage. Boys develop larger voice box, and because the growing voice box in boys can be seen as a protruding part in the neck region that is called what? Adam's apple. Here we have seen this is called what? Adam's apple. It is shown here, Adam's apple. So in girls, the larynx is hardly visible. That means we cannot see distinctly the larynx from the outside because of its small size. So girls have a high-pitched voice. On the other hand, the boys have deep voice. So such changes takes place, and the muscles of the growing voice box go out of control, and the voice becomes hoarse in some of the adolescents, teenagers. But this sense may remain for a few days, and in due course of time it will become normal. So we can see here Adam's apple, and Adam's apple in a grown-up boy. You can see here. Now let's continue. Many of my classmates have a hoarse voice. Now I know why. So during this development stage, some of the boys or girls, they may become hoarse voice. It shows that it is growing. So in due course of time, that voice may become normal. Increased activity of sweet and sebaceous gland. So during the adolescence period, activity of sweet and sebaceous glands will increase. Now let's see. During puberty, the secretion of sweet glands and sebaceous glands, that means oil gland, increases. Many young people get acne. Here, now let's see this thing. A few glands such as sweet glands, oil glands, and salivary glands release their secretions through ducts. That is, endocrine glands release hormones directly into the bloodstream, so they are also termed ductless glands. So endocrine glands are the glands, they are also known as ductless glands. Why? Because their secretions are directly carried through the bloodstream and it reaches to the target site. So endocrine glands, some of them we can mention is pituitary gland, thyroid gland, then say pancreas, testes in the case of the male, and ovary in the case of the female, like this, and adrenal gland. All these are endocrine gland. So they secrete hormones. Their secretions, that means their hormones are directly carried to the bloodstream and reach to the target site. So many young people get acne and pimples on the face at this time, during this growing time, because of the increased activity of these glands in the skin. Because of the increased activity, these oil glands and sebaceous glands, these glands, they have increased activity. Because of that, they may have acne and pimples on the face of them during this adolescence period. Development of sex glands, let's see. Look up figure 9.1 and 9.3 of the previous lesson, which show sex organs of humans. At puberty, male sex organs like the testes and penis develop completely. The testes also begin to produce sperms. In girls, the ovaries enlarge and eggs begin to mature. Also, ovaries start releasing mature eggs. So development of sex organs. Say, we know that sex organs, particularly in the case of the males, during the puberty stage, male sex organs like testes and penis develop completely, and testes begin to produce sperms. And in the girls also, the ovaries enlarge and eggs begin to mature during this puberty stage. Reaching mental, intellectual, and emotional maturity. Now let's see. Adolescence is also a period of change in a person's way of thinking. Adolescents are more independent than before and are also self-conscious. Intellectual development takes place and they tend to spend considerable time thinking. In fact, it is often the time in one's life when the brain has the greatest capacity for learning. Sometimes, however, an adolescent may feel insecure while trying to adjust to the changes in the body and mind. But as adolescent learners, you should know that there is no reason to feel insecure. These changes are a natural part of growing up. So reaching mental, intellectual, and emotional maturity. So during the adolescence period, this is person's way of thinking. Their person's way of thinking are also changed. Adolescents are independent than before and are also of self-conscious. So reaching the age of mental, intellectual, and emotional maturity will come in this adolescence period. And in the secondary sexual characters during the adolescence, secondary sexual characters we can see here. Let's see. You have learned in chapter 9 that testes and ovaries are the reproductive organs. Testes in the case of the male and ovaries in the case of the female. They produce the gametes, that is, sperms and ova. So male gametes are known as sperms and female gametes are known as ova or egg. In girls, breasts begin to develop at puberty. So in the puberty stage, particularly in the girls, breasts becomes develop. And boys begin to grow facial hair, that is, mustache and beard. As these features help to distinguish the male from the female, they are called secondary sexual characters. So, in the case of the male, say mustache and beard, we can see, and we can distinguish male from the female. And boys also develop hair on their chest. In both boys and girls, hair grows under the arms and in the region above the thighs or the pubic region. Above the above the thigh. So here, both Buzo and Pehle wish to know what initiates changes at puberty. So during the puberty, what initiates? Hormones initiate these changes. The changes which occur at adolescence are controlled by hormones. As you know, hormones are chemical substances. These are secretions from endocrine glands or endocrine system. The male hormone or testosterone begins to be released by the testes at the onset of puberty. This causes changes in boys about which you have just learned. Say, for example, the growth of facial hair. Once puberty is reached in girls, ovaries begin to produce the female hormone or estrogen. So, which makes the breast develop. So, development of the breast takes place by the production of this hormone that is called estrogen. So, male secreting glands or mammary glands develop inside the breast. The production of these hormones is under the control of another hormone secreted from an endocrine gland called pituitary gland. So, these hormones, production of these hormones, estrogen in the case of the female and testosterone in the case of the male, all these hormones are controlled by endocrine gland that is called pituitary gland. It is present at the head, beneath the brain. It is just the size of half of the pea seed. So it is known as the master gland of the endocrine system. That is this pituitary gland. So for today, let's stop here. In the next video class, let's meet again. For today, bye.